Ah, hello. Good to see you again. Come in, come in. I want to show you something. I want to show you this book I'm reading. Actually, you know what? I've got a better idea. Why don't I just show you an interview I've done with the author of this book, and he can tell us all about it. Let's go check it out. Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Pickle Media. Thanks for coming back. Today we're going to be looking at a good friend of mine's book, his new book, What the Monsoon Knows. Here it is here. And we're going to pick his brain about it, unpack the book, and he's going to tell us all about it.
And I'm looking forward.
So first we're going to hit the road to different locations around northern New South Wales, which are featured in this book, and we're going to ask Ian some questions there. Ian, the first question I need to ask you, I guess, is about the title of your book, What the Monsoon Knows. Why is this theme so important to your topical endeavours in this book?
Well, as you can see behind us, Wellerman, Mount Warning, we've got a bit of cloud coming out the summit there, and it's a grey, cloudy day here in the Northern Rivers near Wollongbar, where I live. And well, the monsoon is actually really active up north in the tropics at the moment. We're here in the subtropics to the south, and there's been a big cyclone up near Borroloola, around Borroloola area up in the Northern Territory, to the southwest of Darwin, and that's all tied in with the monsoon. And we need that rain from the monsoon to come down here to the sugarcane country and the bananas and the rainforest and the mangoes. And what the monsoon is actually where the ocean is hot or warm, but the land is actually warmer than the ocean. And that occurs between Australia and India and all the countries in between, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, New Guinea, Malaysia, etc. So what happens is it forms in the Himalayas with all the heat and humidity from summer, with the summer sun heating up the planet, and it brings the monsoon with the winds, and as the Earth's moving around the sun in the summer northern hemisphere, it comes down and into Australia in the southern hemisphere in our summer. And so we share the same monsoon system between India to Australia, and every country I went to had the monsoon. And at the first part of my book, I was living in Darwin, which is very monsoonal, hot and humid like Asia, Southeast Asia, and the monsoon is always active in the summer months in Australia, like I was saying, and that comes down into this part of the world as well. So all those countries I went down into, travelled through in Asia, had the monsoon, and climate dictates culture. So all those countries, all these people, they live by the cycles of nature, they live by the cycles of the weather, and the monsoon rains, and the really dry season days.
Can you tell us a bit about what got you started and what inspired you to begin writing about the places and the people you've experienced?
Yes, it was all started accidentally, actually. I was writing environmental stories for media in Australia at the time and school teaching with Indigenous groups in Darwin. And I took a holiday to Kuching, Sarawak, Borneo, a place that's always fascinated me. And I fell in with the underground movement there, all the movers and shakers protecting the Indigenous rights of people in Sarawak, including national parks rangers and academics. And I was mentored along nicely by a well-known anthropologist there, as well as the help of an actor from Home and Away, actually, who became a friend of mine I met in the jungle in Borneo. So it was great, and I started my own research and writing, and I started travelling upstream, staying with Indigenous groups, the old headhunter groups, as they used to say, the Dayaks. And I really enjoyed that, and I wanted to give back to the people there because I could see what was happening to the environment there and to their livelihoods. And so off I went, and I went to Borneo 3 times, Sarawak, Sabah, and Blue King Brown, the well-known band from Melbourne. They started off from Byron Bay, and Natalie Rise, the singer, now lives in California. So they actually published my ebook. They had a big culture activism section, and I started travelling around the world, and it all became very addictive. So I kept finding topics to write about in Asia, and I just love going to Asia and the people, and and the versatility, the sustainability of the people, because in Australia, you know, you get welfare funds. Over there, they have to sort of eke out a living, and it just fascinated me how sustainable people were. So I kept writing stories on Asia of the places and the people, and of course my background in ecology helped with my understanding of the environment. So here I am today. The book's finished. What the Monsoon Knows, ready to roll.
Here we are in a place you love, Byron Bay, northern New South Wales. In your book you discuss the change occurring here, the gentrification of Byron Bay.
Yeah, I've lived in this region for at least 16 years, and I've seen a lot of change occurring. And Byron Bay is a very special place. I always stick up for it. I love Byron Bay. In the 70s, a lot of the hippies turned up. That new age sort of lifestyle arrived to this region in the Northern Rivers, and with it, a lot of culture and music and art and festivals and all the rest of it. And that's made Byron really famous. If you just drive down the road, you come to a town which close to my heart, Mullumbimby, and that's a real hippie town. And I know a lot of friends there. I used to live in that region for 6.5 years, Brunswick Heads, Mullumbimby. And of course, the further you go out to another place I used to live and do radio on is Nimbin, which is a real hippie town, quite famous. But what happened is a lot of people from Sydney and Melbourne with money loved the cosmopolitan lifestyle here. Even though it's country, it's still very cosmopolitan. So they moved into the region. And at first that was okay because a lot of the poorer people, they could find work. You know, you could work on the wealthy people's houses, their lawns, their yards, their properties. But in the end, they got priced out, and you're left with just people with money, and the beige arrived. And even though Byron Bay has still got community culture, and you've got still got lots of music, community workshop environments, world music. And if you go up into the hills, especially particularly 6 years ago when I lived in this region, there was a lot of community music, world music going on in the halls, the community halls up in the hills around this part of the world. And today it's still there in Byron Bay, but unfortunately also you've got Gold Coast to the north, which is all walks of life live there, 500,000 people, but it's a bit bawdy there, and a lot of people come down here just to party, and a lot of the culture's come out. It's become more like just another beach town in Australia, an absolutely stunning paradise, but less cultural than it used to be, and a lot of people had to move out because couldn't afford to live here, sadly.
You had some interesting encounters along the way with some wildlife. I heard an interesting story about a bearded pig. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, I've had some interesting encounters with wildlife through the book, particularly Sri Lanka and Borneo. And the bearded pig chased me along the front of the rainforest along the beach in Bakul National Park near Kuching. You have to read the book to get the details, but it was quite funny, but at the same time, and I was a bit of a nervous wreck from it. But I got away, and you can read the encounter in the book. But yeah, bearded pigs are quite an amazing animal. They look like ZZ Top meets the New South Wales Police Force. And they're quite a funny animal, but I quite often with my camera I get myself in trouble, as you'll see in the book, not just with the four-legged variety, but the Homo sapiens as well. And cameras can be a conduit to trouble. And I got chased and I had to run for it. But also in Yala National Park in Sri Lanka, I had a bull elephant come out of the bush there and wander up to me and put his trunk right up to my face. That was quite a special moment. You feel very small next to such a big creature, I can tell you right now. You feel very vulnerable. And he was after my peanuts. So, yeah.
Your peanuts?
Peanuts!
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure that's clear, peanuts. So, so I've had leopards and poisonous snakes and curious monkeys.
Something about a turkey as well?
That happened in my next book. and that was quite an experience too, yeah. But that's in the follow-up book. I had a very problematic turkey on site attacking me while I was trying to get through a story, and I actually found that more intimidating than some of the guns I've been faced with. Mm-hmm. So I've sidestepped a few nasties along the way, a few beasties. I've lived to tell the tale, a couple of scars here and there perhaps. I used to wander around quite a few jungles by myself in Borneo and places like that, Laos, Sri Lanka. I took some risks. I've seen leopards. I've had to worry about tigers in some spots. Not so much tigers being in large numbers, but them just even being around such a powerful creature, So yeah, I mean, in Australia we've got problems too. If you get caught out in some places, you wouldn't want to be in the wetlands of Kakadu by yourself on a lonely, hot, humid night in the top end. But lots of crocodiles up there.
And Ian, your book's not all about problems occurring in places. You also approach culture and cuisine in back lanes of Singapore and Penang, don't you?
Yes, while chasing the big stories on environmental neglect and social corrosion, I spent a lot of my time just with the casual ponderings of life around me, banging my fangs down into exotic cuisines and the local cuisines. So, I wanted to show all that, and I wanted the day-to-day to arrive to the with a nod to Malaysia and Singapore. So their street culture's on show, whether it be tattoo artists, glass engravers. That was a fun story in Penang. They're the funny guys. And of course, religious deities, biryani, the magical whims of biryani, and of course, my favourite fabled fish curry.
The old fish curry, yeah. Now, Ian, going back to Indigenous culture, especially here in Australia, and I know it's a big part of your book, how does that speak to you?
Well, I've learned a lot from my travels overseas with different tribal groups, Indigenous groups, and I've been entrusted with a lot of information, sensitive, important information, which I share in the book. So I've had mentors, anthropologists, all sorts of people. So I've been very blessed. In fact, the other day in class, I had a Year 12 boy on the Gold Coast in Queensland and asked me about what I've learned with Indigenous education and through my time at university and with media with Indigenous groups. So I drew up a storm on the board of lots of information showing how Indigenous people are affected by their own spirituality, the environment, their family, the moiety, and government interaction in places like the Northern Territory and along the east coast of Australia. And it blew him away. And he was shocked at how much of information I'd opened a door up to him, a world he'd never understood. And that's the problem in Australia. A lot of people are very two-dimensional in their approach to learning about Indigenous themes. They don't really get what Aboriginality is all about. So once you understand the gurutul, the matrix that connects an individual to his spirituality, or he or her spirituality, the environment, the family moiety, skin systems, and dreaming totems. It's fascinating. It becomes addictive. And it changes the way you operate as far as the way you see culture. I mean, it's all balance. The gurutul, the matrix of the way people live. Indigenous spirituality. It's a matrix of how people live today as well as the past, and it's absolutely fascinating. And I mean, if you're Hindu Australian, for example, of course you've got a whole suite of information that you're privy to, and of course that's fascinating too, and I really respect that.
Very good. So Ian, I guess we should ask you where we can get our hands on one of these.
Yes, you can buy it through my publisher online at Austin Macaulay, and it's being released all through America, parts of the Middle East, particularly in London. It's released in London originally, and a lot of the world's biggest book carriers, book launching sites and warehouses and whatnot are releasing what the Monsoon Knows. So whether it be here in Australia, lots and lots of big book carriers in Australia, as well as overseas. But Austin Macaulay website in the travel section, and also, of course, Amazon's a big player nowadays. Amazon's really pushing it along nicely. And some of the local bookshops in New South Wales and Sydney are selling it, and big Queensland chains looking at it at the moment. Hopefully I'm getting released through the bookshops in Queensland, which would be fantastic. But it's baby steps at the moment because we've only just begun. It's only newly released.
Yeah.
It's doing really well already, thankfully, and it's also in the university library system.
Oh, nice.
In America, USA.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. So in parts of Australia we'll start using it. I mean, this book's had a long history. It's 16 years worth of work. So already the ebooks that became the chapters in this book, and I've changed some of the narrative and re-referenced and all the rest and brought it up to date. They were actually in university systems all the way from South Africa to the United States and Australia. So, and they've been in magazines and newspapers. So the book's had a long life already before it was published, but now it's newly released and newly all glossy and ready to go, and it's got a new life.
Nice one. And I guess we should close by saying, by asking you, what's next? What's next in the world for Ian Browne?
The journeys in the jungle still continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually off to India in 2 weeks' time, Scott.
Yeah.
I'm off to Kerala, and I was in Malaysia last year, Arnhem Land a few months ago with the Yolngu Indigenous Aboriginal people, the Yolngu, who I know up in Arnhem Land. I'm connected to the families there. So what I'm doing is my next book is the follow-up to What the Monsoon Knows. Will be similar in vein, but a little bit less on the activism side and more on the food heritage side. I'm getting a bit long in the tooth now. I don't want to get chased by bearded pigs anymore. Not saying I won't. Anything's up for grabs out there if the natural world's listening. But yeah, no, I want a bit of a break from that. I'm a bit sick of having guns pointed at me and all sorts of things. I think the food's a safer bet for the moment. But as you know, I did get attacked by a very large turkey on an island just off Penang for this next book. So stay tuned. More journeys and missions to arrive.
I'm looking forward to reading about this turkey.
Great.
No worries. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us. If you can give this video a thumbs up and
Pickle
subscribe
Media.
to this channel,
Pickle Media.
that'd be great. See you next time, mate.